We see them every day, in the streets, on corners, but how often do we stop to think about not what they want, but who they are?
I've met people that were on top of the world, had everything, but the job shut down. They couldn't pay the bills no more, and they're out on the streets, and it was like, what do I do now?
I've been homeless since I was 9 years old. My parents were tweakers, so I decided to take off and find myself somehow. Ended up running to a group of juggalos and Grateful Dead family. They switched my perspective around, got me on the right track. If I have to, I'll ask people for money, you know. Otherwise, most of the time I come across work.
I served off the coast on a ship on an aircraft carrier. I served in the States, but I also served, we were activated to go to North Korea. After I got out, I just enjoyed my life on the planet in America and began to deal with the guilt and the horror of what I experienced and what was really going on, and being betrayal was the thing that really tore at me the most, and still I had to learn to live with it. My routine is to go up, make my rounds, just walk the city, walk the beach, catch the bus, go up to the Davenport, walk the cliffs, go to the west side, fish a little bit out there, watch the surfers, talk to people.
Honestly, I think I live a better life than most people who live inside of a house, for the simple fact that I get to openly, feel the earth. It's always constantly changing. You never know what's really going to happen, so you live more of an animalistic life, which is I believe is a whole lot healthier for you.
I'm happy with where I'm at. I felt kind of guilty as to what I was living a contemporary, centralized, mechanized society, and taking their medications, and this and that. And just some of the things I saw, the suffering that was being created and the destruction,
Despite the fact that much of the homeless community has adjusted well to living on the street, many are still forced to live under the radar.
But I have had officers approach me saying, well, I got a complaint from so-and-so, said that you were doing this and that, and when so-and-so wasn't there, I said, well, bring so-and-so over here. I want to see him, because that didn't really happen. That wasn't me. I wasn't even there. And then well, there's 7. I said, well, bring him. I said, either that or we'll see him in court writing me a ticket. Now, you better hang up your badge, son. You just walked all over my constitutional rights, and there's witnesses here.
However, in Santa Cruz County, staying under the radar can be very difficult when you don't have a home.
The way that it goes is if you can stay in the bushes and you can avoid detection, then they're not going to mess with you, and they're not going to look that hard. But there's no resources in the bushes, and there's no, access to food in the bushes, and so it's a really hard balance for homeless people. They got to hide themselves, but they got to make themselves, available to eat and to perform and to live their life, and so it's a real challenge.
There's people that come from all over here because of the services provided, the humane services provided here throughout the community. I've been forward, I've seen they've done a lot. They've been over backwards. I've been other places, I've seen the same social situation, but they don't have the facility. They don't have the tools that they have here. The people involved as collectively.
I'd say about 7 years back, there were services that were homeless that could help them with, trying to get on their feet, find housing and all this stuff. But now that the economy is so bad, it's like there's no services.
There really isn't that much shelter space. Approximately 6 to 7% of Santa Cruz homeless people fit in the shelters right now. So that means that somewhere between 93 and 94% of the homeless people do not fit into shelters. So they don't have a place to legally sleep. That's the main problem that we come up with. So then what happens is that they sleep wherever they can find space. A lot of the times it is downtown because it's safe there and it's well lit and it's patrolled and there are people around, as opposed to sleeping on the levee or under a bridge somewhere where it's much more dangerous. I mean, they're kind of out in the wild. They're sleeping in a bush somewhere, and anybody that walks by and, you know, wants to bother them or steal from them or whatever, they have limited defenses.
I've actually woke up with a gun to my head a couple times, with people just trying to rob me because I'm sleeping on the side of the street, you know, knowing that I have nothing. It's been pretty random, actually. I haven't really had anything in a long time happen, because I put a negative vibe around me to keep bad energies away.
Basically what happens is that there are several ordinances in the city of Santa Cruz that relate almost directly to homeless people, and they're the camping bans. One of them says that you cannot sleep outside between 11 and 8:30 in the morning. Another one says that you can't set up any type of camp, which is broadly interpreted to even mean blankets and even a coat, if your intention is to stay overnight. But of course, it's hard to establish that your intention is to not stay overnight, even if it's during the day. So we find that homeless people are being harassed and cited for this ordinance all the time.
I don't really sleep anywhere. I sleep in random spots, you know, here and there. Never really anywhere in a specific spot, because police harass kids. Sleep in one spot too long and usually get a sleeping ticket.
But if you consider that public space is supposed to be public space, there has been this movement to privatize public space and make it the private property of city councils and county councils. But it's supposed to be the commons. If you're not hurting anybody by your behavior, then you should be able to do what you want. And so there's a whole lot of barriers that are set up, and this town is no different than most other towns. They just don't want homeless people around. I mean, everyone knows in Santa Cruz that they got a good deal going here. It's a beautiful place. It's right by the ocean. The food grows all over the place. And, you know, if they're going to be homeless people, then we want them in orderly, neatly rows. We don't want them causing problems. We don't want them sleeping on monuments or sleeping at the clock tower or openly visible.
Because they see us, they sit in here, you know, just living life, slowly getting a little bit here, and we're surviving off of it. And then we turn around, we look at them, and look at all they got, and they're barely surviving. We're like, come on now. Dude, look at all you guys got, and you're barely surviving. I barely survive off of chump change every day, you know?
Homeless people are similar to the way that minorities have been historically treated, in that they have no political power. So there's absolutely nobody, except for, you know, private advocates or people that are working for the city, that's their job and designation, to help them. I mean, they're not going to be electing people. They're not going to be doing all those other things. And it's one of those issues when you have a vulnerable group in society, it's kind of the responsibility of a humane society to make sure they're taken care of.
Are we really that busy, that important, that we can't lend a helping hand? What would happen if we did? Try it sometime. See what happens.